This was back in 2013 when I was based in Holland, British Marine for context. I had been married to my wife for a little over 18 months when I deployed to Afghanistan. My wife had a job in the British delegation on base and got to know pretty much every Brit and their husband-wife. One day, we were directly targeted by a vehicle, born IED. Now, whilst it wasn't uncommon for there to be a threat to coalition forces in general, being directly targeted felt more personal for obvious reasons. That was also the day I found out about an RAF guy back in Holland had tried it on with my wife. I found him on Facebook and, still feeling rather raw about Terry trying to blow me up, messaged him words to the effect of, "If you go near Mrs. X again, I will put glass in your throat the next time I see you." The next day, one of my bosses, who was also RAF, messaged me on Facebook to say that this guy had been over to his office and basically tattled on me. He gave me a friendly warning heads up that this guy could have gone to the MPs and reported me. I have no idea what would have happened, but I acknowledged the warning and said it won't happen again. My boss had my back and actually told him to wind his neck. Fast forward to when I got back from Afghanistan. A few days had passed and I was starting to settle into a normal life again. My wife brought it up after explaining she didn't mention it at the time due to my reaction the first time that an Army Sergeant Major had tried to message her via Facebook. He told her she was beautiful and wanted her number. She promptly blocked him. I was pissed off to say the least, but I understand why she kept it until I was back on home soil. The next day, I went into our department and spoke to my other boss, an Army captain. I told him what had happened and he said, "Leave it with me." He basically had a chat with him and nothing came of it. I felt deflated and even more pissed off. That was until our senior military officer came into our department. He welcomed me back and asked how my tour was. Still pissed off, I said, "It was good, sir," with the exception of Sergeant Major Dochbog trying to get round my wife. He was, understandably, a little taken aback. About an hour or so later, he emailed me saying that he feels the need to do something official about this. Something I had forgotten was that the colonel and sergeant major belonged to the same regiment, so having one of his own behave like this had clearly gripped him. I told him the full story and provided screenshots of what Sergeant Major Dochbog had said to Mrs. X. For this to go official, my wife had to provide a statement. Unfortunately, Mrs. X is very non-confrontational and said she didn't want this to continue. I respected her wishes of not wanting to provide a statement, but hatched a plan that would be 3 years in the making. The timing is important. I emailed the colonel and said that Mrs. X has declined. However, I felt the need for some formal recognition, so I asked that Sergeant Major Dochbog write a letter of apology, addressed to both my wife and I, which is to be signed and dated. This was granted, and I received said letter 2 days later. It said, "Lance Corporal and Mrs. X, I am writing this letter to you both to apologize for the torment and anxiety that you both must have felt from the messages that you received from my Facebook account. To Mrs. X, nobody should ever be in a situation where they worry about going to work because of who may come through the door, especially so when they have the added stress of a partner being operationally deployed at the time. The anguish that you must have felt at this time is immeasurable, and for this I apologize. To Lance Corporal X, being operationally deployed is stressful enough without the added stress and worry about family back home. Support from home and loved ones is what carries many people through tough times whilst on tour. For any undue angst caused, I apologize. I regret any hurt and anguish caused by this issue and apologize wholeheartedly and unreservedly to you both. I now waited. I saw out the rest of my time in Holland, moved back to the UK to my new base, and waited some more. Almost 3 years after I received the apology letter, I looked up Sergeant Major Dochbog's wife on Facebook. I had known the whole time we were out there that he was married. His wife lived back in the UK, and he has routinely tried to cheat on her. I sent her the same screenshot which I had sent to the colonel. I also, before leaving Holland, printed off the emails between the colonel and myself where I requested the apology letter. I blanked out the colonel's details and sent the pictures of that. And then, lastly, I sent a picture of the apology letter, signed and dated by her husband, admitting what he had done. Once I saw she had read it, I blocked her, blocked Sergeant Major Doshbag and all his friends who had also been out in Holland at the same time. Why, 3 years. I remember him saying before he turned into a douchebag and tried it on with my wife that he only had 3 years left to serve. If my timing was correct, he was months away from completing his 22 years and receiving a very nice pension. If his wife decided to go ahead with divorce, she would take half of said pension, which would essentially screw him over for the rest of his life. I honestly can't believe that this just happened, but here we go. I was online shopping this morning when I saw these gorgeous outdoor Christmas lights at really great prices at a local store. My mother loves Christmas, but she's never had the money or time to put any lights up, but she longed to have some. I decided that, as an early Christmas present, that I would get her some that she could be proud of. I purchased some great deals online, like some light-up reindeer, her favorite, some colorful string lights, with the colors red, green, white, blue, and purple, a snowflake-shaped light, and some light-up candy canes for her candy cane lane. I ordered them, paid with my credit card, and was actually able to pick them up in store, same day, all for less than $100, a total steal. When I got there, I saw there's a long line at customer services, so I decided to browse for a bit. I ended up getting a super great deal on a pair of dripping icicle lights, the buy one, get one free deal. I then added a strand of light-up garland so she could decorate inside with more than just the tree. I know it's a lot, but I made good money from doing remote lab work at my university, and since I had more than enough saved up for tuition, decided to spoil my family after such a rote 10-year. What I got from my siblings, dad and grandparents, are not related to this event, so I go pay, and sure enough, the line at customer service is a lot shorter. I get in line, wait maybe 20 minutes, and when I'm at the counter, I present my email proving proof of purchase. But it takes a bit for her to scan the QR code as the device is apparently not reading it. I had no problem with that because, hey, things happen when suddenly my own card is slammed into my side. See, what I did was put myself between my cart and the exit. I've read one too many horror stories of people just running off with others' purchases that I wanted to play it safe, and it kind of worked. Except for the fact that I'm now in a lot of pain because my own cart was rammed right into my hip bone and knee, knocking me over to the floor and nearly making me whack my head. And the crazy lady who did that then tried to push my own cart over me, all while screaming, "I kid you not, you stupid little thief." This lady was literally trying to sell that I stole her cart. Needless to say, I'm super pissed and super in pain, security is called. I'm screaming at the lady to stop lying and give me back my cart, and then I end up detained. Why? Beats me. Angry, I then twisted out of the security guy's hold, ripped the receipt out of my pocket, and shoved it in his face. "I have the receipt, you witch." He's startled, steps back, and stares at the receipt, and I snap at him that he needs to get a pair of glasses because, whatever he thought, I have the receipt, that witch doesn't. Now call me a ambulance because I can't take the bus home from how in pain my body was from being rammed by my own cart. An older security guard, a manager, and the head honcho supervisor come over, and the older guard starts berating the younger guy for jumping to conclusions. Again, apparently, the manager checks my receipt, and sure enough, it's all mine, and the crazy lady has no receipt. Of course, then the lady starts wailing about how I must have stolen her receipt, only to have it pointed out that I had used my points card for that store, which was on the receipt and they could match to my ID. They also had CCTV of me with all my items, buying them, and then her coming along and grabbing them and ramming me with my own cart. I then have to sit there on a bench with all my items. The customer service girl who struggled to get the QR code to scan returned my phone to me. I dropped it on the counter when I was hit and started placing my items I had bought online into the cart, which had now been returned to me, while Crazy Lady was detained. Police and EMTs arrived not long after. Store actually wasn't that far from a hospital or police station, and after the EMTs loaded me onto the stretcher. My ankle was badly twisted from being knocked over, and I wanted to go to the hospital just to be safe. I give my statement, press charges, before turning to the supervisor as he comes over. He's very apologetic and asks if I want anything from the store for free as compensation for this disaster. I told him that all I wanted was for A, the idiot security guard to either be rigorously retrained in thinking for once or be fired, B, that I wanted them to hold on to my purchases until I could come back to pick them up, and C, that crazy lady who was now screaming, "You'll hear from my son. He's a lawyer," which is how I know she's an entitled mother, be perma-banned from their entire chain because who knows if she's gotten away with it before or would do it again. The super agreed that it was more than fair. The security guy who detained me improperly looked horrified, and apparently Crazy Lady heard that and went deathly pale before she fainted right then and there. I'm now sitting in a hospital bed, my ankle in a cast, the bones cracked, my left hip and knee in pain, my right elbow bruised, and having to call my grandparents to pick me up because my family only has 2 cars and my sister and dad are both at work, hence why I took the bus. What happened to me isn't right, and I'm going to be pressing charges. And I'm in Canada, so I can't make her pay my medical bill as it's covered by the provincial plan. For context, the Rural Fire Service here in Australia always drives around at Christmas time dressed as Santa to spread some Christmas cheer and hand out candy to the kids. These people are volunteers that have given countless hours of their time and put their lives on the line for the community and never ask for anything in return. These people also give up spending nights with their families for 3 entire weekends every December. These volunteers don't have to do what they do, but they do it out of the kindness of their hearts to bring joy to the kids for free. So, last night was our area's turn to have Santa come around. Personally, me and my family thought it was great, and seemingly so did most of the community. But today, there was a post on the local community Facebook group from a entitled Mother, we'll call her Karen, trash-talking the RFS, accusing them of treating her kids like dogs. They didn't. They tossed the candy out to the kids, similar to how performers on parade floats do, as they simply don't have time to stop, cause of the area they have to cover. And throwing a massive tantrum because they didn't give her crotch goblins a one-on-one with Santa. They haven't done one-on-ones during the drive-bys since the pandemic started 2 years ago, even though there is literally a special event next Friday. As stated in our local representative's reply to her, where kids can see Santa one-on-one. Karen also made it her mission to reply to almost everyone calling her out for being entitled, trying to make the RFS seem like a piece of trash, but only ever really proving how over-entitled she is. Our local representative, who has officially earned my respect for this, replied to Karen calling her out on her entitlement, and told her if she doesn't like that they won't feed her entitlement, she's more than welcome to don the suit in this near 30-degree weather and do meet and greets herself.